Oh, she could go ahead.
She's still.
I think she's home.
There's usually a lot of traffic going on. I think
Yeah.
we barely missed, or we got a little bit of it, but for them it might be worse.
So what did we think?
I thought something more dramatic was going to happen, like way, way dramatic. And so I felt like I was missing more at the end.
I wasn't.
Wanted Crystal's ending. Wanted Crystal's ending from last time.
What was
I wasn't completely unsatisfied with it though. I feel like I was satisfied that Jesse had like the realization that he wasn't okay and that, like he needed to kind of heal. But I do wish that she would have just stayed on her own. But I mean, I'm not like unhappy that she stayed with Sam.
I'm glad he was able to realize that too, that he was needing, some help. And I feel like that part felt more real than the whole like maybe two middle parts of the book that we read, where he was kind of even trying to fake it and everything. I was also surprised her sister wanted to like take the manager position, but I guess it makes sense. Or the assistant manager position.
Mm.
So back to it.
Yeah, I was expecting something more dramatic. I mean, the whole skin cancer did happen, but I feel like I wasn't satisfied with the end just because she was very confused. And then in the end, she's like, you know what? I'll still have my last day with you, and then I'm gonna go to with Sam. And I just feel like that
Yeah,
just
exactly.
is so
She's
unreal and so like yeah, she was sad and everything, but I'm just like, I don't know. I didn't like that. He's like, yeah, I found someone too, and I get it now. Okay, cool. But I wasn't as satisfied as I wish I would have been.
I hate that Sam doesn't want to know what she did. Like, how does that not bug you? That's gonna eat at you.
He's mature.
I feel like either way would be bad because if he did know, he would like it would fester within him, like whatever happened. And then if he doesn't know, he's like left to his imagination.
Yeah.
Hmm. Sometimes I mean, it was really bad what she did, but I feel like maybe like his imagination, sometimes like your imagination could be worse than what actually was the outcome. But I feel like in that situation, it was already as bad as it could get.
I liked how, a lot of our criticisms were, addressed, which was good. Like, I definitely felt like, okay, like, it's not like completely a tone deaf situation. Like, they're trying to insert some realism here, but then it all just felt like so fast. I wish that this would have been part of like the other chapters too. And I think there should have been more consequences for her actions because I feel like the way that she handled this was really like spontaneous and not thought out and hurtful. And it all just, I think it was it was starting to get interesting, but then they wrapped it up in a bow again.
Hmm.
And I would have liked, either a little bit more exploration in the book about these like more complicated things, or like for it to end it with that kind of more open-ended thing like, wow, maybe I need to work on myself because I just am like off the walls here about what I want. And maybe that means that I need to do more self discovery as a person because I'm clearly, like very confused and, maybe I should take some time off and then I can, be a better partner. But it just kind of wrapped it all up in a bow instead. And I feel like that is not very satisfying. I definitely like this segment the most out of all the segments, but I wish that the book would have been more similar to this segment instead of like, more wish fulfillment kind of, I don't know, not really wish fulfillment, but like kind of surface level-y romance stuff before it got like more meaty. But then she had to finish it. So she just like finished it off.
Yeah. Like I like the when it was getting very dramatic and they're like not that they had to scream at each other or be very like angsty, but I feel like you could really tell how much they wanted to make it work during that scene. And it just, like you said, it just kind of fell through and they're like, okay, it's over. And then, yes, they're sad or whatever, but I don't know. Like, I wanted more of that to continue. Like, that was the one moment where I'm like, oh my gosh, like, he still really loves her. And it's not just like saying it, like, he was actually showing it. You could tell. Yeah, I just, I don't know.
And then she comes back from her whole thing, and then Sam just happens to be like coming to her shop. Like literally, like what was that? Like a few hours after all this happened, it just all like resolved itself so fast in a like very unrealistic and non-interesting way.
Yeah, so for that part, so this weekend we were all together, like Karina, Crystal, and my sister Jailene, and they all finished the book. I was finishing up the book, and that part when I got to that, I couldn't it's so unrealistic that he's like, I'm here to fight for you, and I'm like, fight for you, right when she's the one who drove or went to your place, you're barely stepping out of the door. That to me is not fighting. And that's why I'm like, I wasn't satisfied with him winning her or, being with her. And not to say that I wanted her to be with Jesse, but I'm like, you didn't fight. Don't be saying that you fought,
No,
you
he was
know?
at the shop. He came to the shop and she walked out the door.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
He was saying
But
like,
yes,
oh
like
yeah,
he
I'm
thought
ready to fight. And I'm like, you took forever. Why wasn't it the
why
day
did Peggy
one when you were gone? I don't think he knew that Emma was gonna go, right, to the trip. I don't think she
no.
mentioned it, right?
Uh-uh.
Like, why didn't you
And this was days
by day
later.
one? Exactly.
So he was like, he waited days and like sat in his own thoughts and like was miserable
Yeah.
for at least for 3 days before
Yeah.
he drove up to her shop to say that he was, quote, gonna fight for her.
Yeah. I don't know. That to me, I was like, you know what, Sam? Go find someone better. And
No,
then
but I like I think the way that it's like, at least the way I thought about it, was like he's never been that guy.
yeah.
He's always the guy that, never saw himself as good enough for
Mhm.
her. So he always just gave up right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah.
And he was like that throughout their entire relationship. The moment that Jesse came back into her life, he was like, well, I gotta let you go. Like he never kind of saw himself as good enough. And I think it was like at the end, he finally came to the conclusion, like, no, like
Mhm.
I am enough. It did take him some time, and it took him apparently a lot of sleepless nights because he showed up looking half dead. But I thought I think in a way, I liked kind of how that turned out because it's just like, it's almost like I like to see that the little guy comes up. At least to him, he feels like he stepped up.
Mhm.
Like I'm doing better than I have been. I'm doing more than I did in the past.
Could you
I just think
imagine
she
though,
had
like,
no consequences.
With no consequence.
oh,
That's what I don't like.
That's
It's like,
what it.
okay, like
That's
this girl was straight up hoeing around
yeah.
and she just like literally got everything that she wanted. That's what I don't like.
okay.
But I'm like, it's,
Just
it goes both
and
ways.
imagine if he came back like while she was on her trip. Because I feel like she told him about it, but
Mhm.
if he had a day or two to just like ruminate over that, I think that would have done more damage.
Mhm.
Yeah. I don't.
I kind of like, was it the people we meet on vacation, how the woman was the one that kind of came back to look for the teacher in the teacher's bar? I feel like that kind of would have been, not that I want the exact same thing to happen, but something they're both making more of an effort. And I think that Emma would have been shook if something like people we meet on vacation happen. Like if she went to like look for him and he was like with a random girl, she probably would have been like, oh my gosh, but then she wouldn't have been able to like really judge him because of what she had done already too.
Mm-hmm.
But I also wonder, even though this wasn't said in the book, the setting being such a small town, I wonder if Sam maybe heard a whisper of it or someone told him through the grapevine, and then that's why he was like, oh shoot, I better rush back because she's already in the cabin, but she's back, and I better let her know like how she feels about me before it's too late, like, but then at that point she already had decided that she wasn't going to be with Jesse anymore.
It's just not only very convenient, but also like just a very uninteresting choice. Like to just have be like, okay, well, I forget like where I just think that this is something that is really monumental and potentially hurtful. And like she didn't have to talk about any of it with him. Like she didn't have to talk through any of it. And I just think that's like a like it's like a huge missed opportunity like for the book to get like more interesting and also like show how she's grown. Like she really grown? She just did like made a choice and it worked out for her. Like does she really know what she potentially could have done? you know?
And I don't want to say that people can't change their mind or they can't find new interests or, grow into wanting to be a bookstore owner and like play the piano because people do change. But I feel like, how do we know that that's what she truly wants? Like it's been what, a year, maybe two? Yeah, I guess it has been like 3 years or so. But still, it's like I don't think she really truly knows herself yet. So if I were in Sam's position, I feel like I'd be very fearful that she might change. I would not trust her because I'm like she changed her mind. She completely was saying like this is who I am now. How do we know that something that can be as traumatic, or maybe not like obviously her husband dying and stuff, but something to cause her to change so much and then find someone else. Not that
I think that's part of
that's
her,
gonna
like the way that I like analyzed it is that's just her personality. She's the kind of person because there are people that are like very much absorb their partner's personality. And I think because she was with Jesse from high school until she was in her early 20s, she was that adventurous, spontaneous person. And then when he was gone, she like spent a little time trying to get to know herself and she followed something that she wanted to do. She wanted to settle down. And so she moved back into her hometown where, she coincidentally started working at the books, her parents' bookstore. 'Cause she had nothing else. And it kind of was like naturally, it kind of just like fell onto it. But I feel like because she met Sam so soon, she basically just absorbed his personality, like the cats, the music, the slow mornings, the whatever it may be. And because she says like, oh, that's who, like, I love Jesse with like I'm no longer the same person I was in the past, and that's who he's in love with, and she's a complete different person. But in reality, she's just like, well, she could if she really wanted to become that person again. But I feel like she just was over it. Like I feel like she's like the way that she thought about it, like, oh, I'm no longer that person. I'm someone new. She basically described Sam because that's like her current situation. So I just wish that she like would have given herself more time to figure out who she is. Like you said, like given herself more time to figure out who she is and figure out her own
individually.
personality.
Yeah.
Yeah. Without a partner.
Exactly.
I feel like I agree with what you said, Crystal. I think the grief with Jesse, not only that they thought he was dead, but the way in which he disappeared or came to be like lasting from her life, the grief must have been so strong. And I wonder, like, when she started feeling a little bit better and she ran into Sam, like, maybe she needed more time, like you said, to come into herself more. But because the one line that stuck with me was how she said she would follow Jesse to hell and just be like, oh, is it hot in here? So in a way, even though Sam is kind of like not as an adventurous type of person, I feel like she did like become a lot more like him as she was, you know, okay with following Jesse.
Have you guys seen La La Land?
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like this book gives me how I felt after La La Land because I really wanted Ryan and Emma to end up together. But then I was with my friend, and then they were like, the reality is not everything's going to be a happy ending. In her case, it seems like it's a happy ending, and yeah, she's sad and all that stuff, but I'm saying it more of how I was seeing the movie. I was like, oh man, they're gonna end up together, they're sad, blah blah blah, or they're happy with the other people. I think this is the same, where obviously they knew they loved each other and they were forever changed by the love that they had and whatever, but they moved on and they have new partners. And even though I'm not happy with it, that's life. Like it's not gonna go how we want it. So that kind of convinced me that I'm okay with the book, but it's still not my favorite. I was like, "Meh, meh." I wanted more drama. I wanted Jesse to die. I would have been happy if he did. I'd be like, oh, Sam, that's it.
At least he could have gotten arrested.
Okay, so I didn't like that part where she was very anxious about like getting pulled over, and he's like, who cares, live a little. And I'm just like, I get it, you went through something traumatic, and he needs to heal and realize that he's not okay. But I was like, just get out, Emma. You
There
know,
were
And that
parts
and
that
we're
like,
so sorry. I'm so sorry. But yeah, I just felt like that just showed like that she was just because she's like, oh, like live a little. And she's like, okay. Like she didn't stand up for what she believed.
yeah.
I was just adding that Jesse like seemed very, very toxic in those moments. And I feel like before there was moments where he seemed likable, but that really like turned me off from him as a character.
Yeah.
My first red flag with him was him choosing to go to Alaska instead of like their first wedding anniversary. And his excuse was, well, you've been to Alaska and I haven't.
Hmm.
And I would understand like if he like doesn't get a lot of chances to travel,
Mhm.
but because they've been so many places, he was like prioritizing himself, which is not always a bad thing, but when it is like your first wedding anniversary. And she just like sympathized with him. She's like, oh yeah, that's fine. I wouldn't have been okay with that if I was her. And then also the fact that they just kind of closed themselves off to their families.
Mhm.
I know they had issues with their families, but it wasn't like especially with her family, it wasn't like a um, abusive or totally toxic environment. And they just like made this life for themselves in LA. Because I think even if you're in a relationship, you should try to like have a good relationship with your family. I understand like sometimes it's not healthy, but that's a little different.
Mhm.
That was my issue with Jesse in the beginning, and then it just progressed from there.
Well put, Katie.
Mhm.
Especially because I feel like their families weren't necessarily the toxic type or the ones to raise red flags and be like, yeah, you should leave and forget about your family and make your own family kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe Jesse's family where they were like, oh, you should be swimming and that should be your, like you should go for that. And he didn't want that. But it's not like they still forced him or even like Emma's parents wanted her to own the bookstore and all that stuff. And even though she didn't, I mean, eventually she did end up doing that, but it's not like they were mean about it or I don't know, like they shouldn't have necessarily shut them off, I guess.
I feel like at the beginning of the book characterized the families as like not being super forceful, but kind of trying to control what they were doing. But I think maybe the characters were, I mean, they were young, but not an excuse for like being too much into yourself, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
And then it kind of made the family seem like they were just like boring, or oh, you're too normal, we're gonna go do all these cool things. But I feel like there's nothing wrong with like having a calm, quiet life, you know. I used to think that there was, because I came from like a really small town. I was like, I never want to go back there and things like that. I wouldn't want to go back to live in Hollister, but I'm not gonna like, you know, be judgy of like people who want to live there, who move there and decide to live there just because I wouldn't want to do that, you know. But I feel like they kind of made it seem like more dramatic than that. What did you all think of, or what was your reaction to Jesse moving on once he moved back to Santa Monica?
Good for him.
Mhm.
It looks, from the sounds of it, it's like he didn't. It just still took him some time. So I'm hopeful that he at least took time to kind of figure out his own shit, go to therapy, and rediscover who he is before falling in love with Surfer Girl.
I was thinking about how Taylor Jenkins Reid like intertwined some of her characters. And I was wondering if that Surfer Girl was like from her Malibu Rising book, but I can't remember anyone named Britt.
Oh, that's a good connection, Julie. I can't remember the name, but I did read that one. I'll have to look it up later.
I haven't read it, but I was reading some of the Goodreads reviews, and some people were mentioning that. And I was like, oh, okay, maybe I'll read it, but I might take a break from Taylor for a while. I was not very happy with this one. So I'm gonna have to give it a minute. But if she does do these connections with books, I feel like that one may connect it since it's Santa Monica, Malibu, LA.
Most of her books have mentioned LA.
Yeah, the afterword with the narrator on the audiobook. I don't know if you guys listened to that, but she said that this was her first like non-LA book
Oh,
that she'd written at that point at least. Also, I don't know if any of you guys listened to it, but it was an interview with the narrator. And I've heard that narrator like multiple times in other books. And when I heard her real voice, I was like, who is that? Like she sounds nothing like her narrator voice. It actually freaked me out.
So
Maybe
they're
she has
like,
her telephone voice to narrate.
I was just gonna say that. So they're like basically acting when they're reading.
Yeah, like even when she, not when she's doing the other voices, but when she's literally just reading the book, like she
Mhm.
sounded nothing like that. And it was just so jarring because I've heard her on like 7 different audiobooks now. And so I like thought I knew what she sounded like. And then no, no, she does not sound like that in real life. It was very weird.
The interview with the author was like kind of annoying to me because it was like
Yeah, I
it
agree.
was not much about this book, and it was more about,
In general.
I don't know, just her in general, her books. But she did say that she knew the ending of the book before she started writing.
Mm.
And it was like more about Emma choosing like the life or whatever, not like the man. And then they put an excerpt from like Evelyn Hugo. So I thought I had 40 minutes of book left, and then it was just abruptly stopped. So I was like, what the heck?
It made me want to read Evelyn Hugo though,
That one,
because I haven't read it yet.
That's a good one.
that one
You
is
will
good.
like it.
That
It's
one
very
is
LA.
and
LA
dramatic
movies.
and so much
Yeah.
mystery and secrets from
Melanie character. It's like,
More character.
no.
It was a
I'll
good
check
one.
it
I
out.
liked it.
really good. That one has twists and turns that you don't see coming. This twist and turn was not a twist and turn at all.
I feel like we
Huh?
we kind of in a way called it.
I mean, what was the twist and turn? That he
There was
came back, which they told us? That she ended
the
up with Sam?
voice. Mm.
That's not really a twist and a turn. You have two choices, 50-50. I don't know.
What did I rate it?
And it says, a twisted quest for love turns out twice as nice. How? What
Maybe
happened?
because she keeps going back and forth.
So she ends up with two good things in the moment, I guess. I don't know.
You know, when something, because just because some things align doesn't mean they will keep aligning in the future. So
Mm.
she might have made a decision now and it might have came out coincidentally the way she wanted to. But in a way, I think like in reality, if this was real, it would come back around, whether it was, you know, Sam finding out what actually happened or she gets tired of living someone else's life.
Mm.
You know, where it's like, oh, I need to go on my own and learn things that I like, not just what Sam likes. Like, it's gonna be something. It's gonna be something. Like, you can't just be all perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why I got annoyed because I was like, this is too like perfectly wrapped up. Like there were way too many things that happened in this book that could have been explored that like were not, and I'm not satisfied with that.
I mean, I still rated the book before because I felt like I wasn't completely unsatisfied and it read really easily. And I'm a sucker for like love. But I mean, there was definitely some things I didn't like, but I mean, I wouldn't reread it, but I didn't hate it.
Mm-hmm. I didn't hate it either. I gave it a 4, but Goodreads doesn't let me do like points, like 5.75, smaller ones. Because in reality, I think I would do a 3.75 just because I did like it. I did like how it was going. And then it was just like the ending that just didn't pull through. But like I said, maybe because I related it with La La Land and I'm like, it's fine, nothing works out always how I want it, blah blah blah. I'm like, okay, sure. I do know that I will never ever would want to be in Emma's shoes ever. That is horrible. And that's just, I don't know, like I feel like there's a fear of like you finding one person you love and then I don't know, because I mean it's called One True Loves. I guess you can have multiples. And I feel like I'm a total hopeless romantic where I'm like, yeah, there's that one person. But it's just kind of sad that you could end up having multiple ones. And you, let's say you go with your second or your third or whatever, you're still like crushed and from the previous that, oh, that hurts. And I'm like, oh, I don't want that. You know what I mean? Like when you think about it in their shoes, you're just like, ugh, I just want it all to be happy. You don't want any sadness, any heartbreak, but I mean, it's gonna happen. So, yeah.
Well, let's hope it doesn't.
What? That's
I mean,
why,
let's
but
hope.
like the hope is hope. That's not like it doesn't become reality. Like we don't know what's gonna happen. So we can
Mhm.
only hope, but yeah. Carry on.
I'd also give 3.75 because, yeah, like easy read. I like the storyline. Oh, and she also said in the interview how it was kind of like Castaway, but like from the wife's perspective, you know? It's like it's always from the man who's lost perspective. I don't know. But I felt the ending, yeah, it kind of like answered all our questions, but was so rushed. So,
Hmm.
I mean, I'd recommend it, but I wouldn't be like, oh, this is my favorite. But
Mhm.
Evelyn Hugo, yes. Daisy Jones, yes. This one?
yeah, Daisy Jones.
If there's a If there's a sale that Target had the buy two, get one free, I'll say buy those two, get this one for free if you want. But maybe if I read another one and it's better, they'll be like, maybe read another. But it wouldn't be my top choice for this author.
I like when they do that sale for the children's books, and then I can get them reimbursed what I buy for my classroom up to a point. So then I'm like, oh yeah, getting all the kids' books. For me, I think a solid 3. I agree with what people are saying that it was an easy read. As I was reading, I was kind of like relaxed, and I did get curious about what would happen, but I feel there was opportunity for a lot more conflict to make it more interesting between Emma and like her 2 men that she was picking between. But I feel like I would have liked to see more between Emma and her sister, because I feel like they kind of built that up a bit at the beginning, and then it fizzled out, and I felt like that, could have taken an interesting turn at the end too. But I did like how it kind of describes the angst of maybe picking after you've had picking someone after such a big loss. Also, I think like it illustrates how people can learn to become happy with like a simpler life, kind of what I was saying before. And or you could have like a life full of travel, and that's okay too.
I also gave it a 3, maybe a 3.5, because it was interesting and it was like an easy read. And I do think this author has, I mean, it's not my favorite work of hers, but there does seem to be that trend of everyone's life is very complicated and that there's multiple loves potentially, and nothing's ever like 100% perfect and happy, or like is wrapped up perfectly in the end. I was looking because I wanted to see like when this book came out compared to some of her stronger ones, and it was earlier, so maybe it's just part of her developing as a writer. But I did, when you guys were talking about the Castaway, like I thought that maybe this would be the end, because that's what the end of like maybe she just watched Castaway one day and was like, I'm gonna write this, and she's gonna end up with Sam, but I'm gonna give it from the Weiss perspective. And I did think about that when I started it and he got lost, that she was just gonna end up with this other guy, and Jesse will just have to figure it out on his own.
Am I the last one, I think? I'm gonna give it a 3. I think everybody's made really good points. I agree with a lot of them. I think that this book had the potential to be like, the idea of it is a very interesting idea. And I feel like this book wasn't quite a success. I almost feel like this could have started off like as a short story, but then she tried to expand it to like a full-on novel. But if you're expanding it to a full-on novel, like, you need to go deeper into the themes. Like, I feel like some of the conclusions could have maybe worked better with like a streamlined short story, like talking about like two loves, maybe, I don't know, like more poetic. But it was a whole novel, and I feel like this author, at least in her, like in Daisy Jones, like there were relationships in that book that were super complex, and like we're kind of like this one where it's like, who is like your true love kind of thing. But she was able to make it really like realistic, but also really interesting, and able to explore things in a more complex way. And I was hoping for more of that in this book, but it feels like the author just kind of like didn't delve into those things too much. And like there were all of these things also that just like were dropped, like kind of like Karina was saying, like about the sister and stuff like that, the parents. I feel like it all like wasn't really delved into. And so yeah, it was an easy read, but I only started getting invested when it started getting a little messy, and then it just ended. So I think this would have been better as either like a more simplistic short story or like a better, more in-depth book, and it wasn't either. So a little bit disappointing for me.
Yeah, I was disappointed too. I didn't want to be, but you can't like them all. I mean, like them, like 5-5. Are you guys gonna watch the movie, or have you guys watched the
Sure.
movie?
I'll probably still watch it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check
I
it
wanna
out,
see-
even though I heard it's bad.
Yeah, I want to see how it compares.
Yeah.
Same with
Same.
you. So I like comparing, like I even like seeing how much of like the script is kind of similar to the book, and
Mhm.
it's like seeing it from a different person's sorry, I can't speak. It's like seeing it from another person's perspective when you watch it in the movie. So I feel like that's interesting. Like, okay, that maybe the director viewed it this way or the actors see it this way. And I find that pretty interesting.
Hmm.
I wonder how much money she gets from all these because I was looking up some article and it's like all her books are pretty much gonna be a series or a movie.
Ooh.
Like, I wonder what's more lucrative, like the TV movie or the book, you know?
I don't know. Reese
She
is
might
doing.
have like an overall deal with a production company, and she's getting paid for like maybe it's like multiple things in one. Like I'm curious if they're all if they're all Hello Sunshine, like all Reese.
I don't know, but they were all like, one said Hulu, one said Netflix. I
That
don't know, it
doesn't mean
seems
that it's
like
not the same production company though. It could still
true,
be Reese.
true, true. And I don't even know if this article is credible, but it did not look like a
She's
credible
doing well
article.
though. She's making bank.
Good for her.
How long is the
I'm
movie?
surprised that they adapted this one though. I don't know why.
I think they're running out of ideas, to be honest. They keep remaking movies and or taking books into movies. Like
Totally.
no, I haven't seen in a while where it's like someone takes like actually creates a movie, something that like I'm like,
Original.
exactly.
Sequels too. Or pre
Original and it
Mhm.
thrives. Not
Mhm.
like original
Oppenheimer.
and it just sucks. Netflix original, Amazon original, and you're like, oh God. I don't know.
You guys should see Oppenheimer. It's original, but it's
I
3
haven't
hours, so
I haven't seen it.
it's really good.
I'm
But it's long.
weekend. My sister wanted me to go today, and I'm like, "Stuff loca." Like, I'm probably
I
gonna
was
go home.
gonna ask you right now. I was like, did you go? It's
She kept
clearly
packing all day, and she was like, "There's a showing at 7:30 p.m." And
Yeah.
but she
Wasn't it like $4 today?
yeah, it was Cinema
Oh
Day.
yeah.
So sad.
yeah, my sister was like, "I can go with mom, but we wanted to see if you want to come." I said, "I don't mind if you guys go." I said, "Or you can wait till next week." And then my sister was like, "Corina," but I guess she waited, so I think that means I'm not going to the cabin, which helped with my decision. So that's good.
Yeah, I wanted to do the whole Barbenheimer and then I didn't and then I forgot about it but I feel like it is good. You saw it, Paula? Yes?
Yeah, it's definitely really dense and it's like it's long, but I feel like it's very like you're very engaged the whole time. And I thought it was really interesting, really good acting. It's like very, you'll find I mean, I thought it was really interesting. And if several people I know who watched it like also were like, oh my God, I couldn't stop. Like, because it's like a movie where people are just talking like the whole time. So you would think that would be like too much, but I feel like I was really invested the whole time. Has a really good ending too.
The casting's really good, and I really like Cillian Murphy as an actor too. So that's another reason I want to go see it.
He's so good. He's gonna like get nominated for stuff.
I think I saw it too, and I think it was interesting because it's something that happened. Like if it was just like a fiction movie, I don't think it would have been as good, if that makes sense.
Yeah. You can still do your research and be like, oh shoot, this is real.
Yeah.
Because it has a lot of parallels to today too. So I think that is also why you're like, oh God.
Did it remind you, Katie, of our nuclear science and society class?
Yeah. That was an interesting one.
gonna say something I forgot. Mm. I don't know what it was. But our next book is this one.
Woo.
We won't have a meeting next week, so you guys take a break. And I'll post the pages because I haven't even looked at how many. I think we said it was gonna be 3 weeks instead of 4 or 4. Hold on.
3 or
3. I
because
think
there's
That sounds good. Yeah, 3 weeks sounds good.
so. I guess I could split it now, but I'll still post it because. Yeah, that's 2, 3.
I'm gonna go
Okay,
ahead.
so we're gonna read up to. Oh, that goes a little over. That's fine. This goes by actual chapters or sections. So read the preface to section 5. So don't read section 6. Values. What? Values. Living by a love ethic. So what does that say? So don't read 6. So it should be like 83 pages or so. Maybe a little more because the intro and the preface.
Got it. Thank you.
Let me just double check something so we don't end up with like 5 pages at the end. That's good enough. Yeah, so we'll do up to 5. Don't read 6. And if you watch the movie, let me know.
I like how the sections have a title page.
Yeah. It's because it's a different kind of book. It's not a fiction novel. I think this will be interesting to discuss.
Awesome.
Okay. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Enjoy your long weekend and have a good night.
Good night, everyone. Have a safe week.
Bye.